In the last section, we spoke a little bit about the behavior or the purpose of React as it relates to Redux in this application we're about to build. So we're going to treat React much more like just layer that produces JSX and content. Like that's it. That's all we want React to do from now on. And we're going to depend on Redux for handling all the decision making inside our application. So with that in mind, we're going to get started on our login form in this section. The first thing we need to do is make sure that we pull over all those default reusable components that we've been carting around all over the place. So again, there are fancier ways to do this by using npm or git submodules, but we're going to do it in the simplest way possible. We're just going to copy paste a directory full of all of those common components. So inside my source directory, I'm going to make a new folder called components. And then I'm going to open up my current directory. So here is my manager project. And then I'm also going to open up a second window here just so I can be very explicit about what's going on. Let's go over to my workspace. I'm going to find my last project that I worked on, which was the tech stack project. I'm going to go in there and find my common directory. So here's my button, card section, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to copy the directory. I'm going to come over to my manager application and drop it into the in the components directory. There we go. There we go. Okay, so in components, I've got my common folder, and inside of there, button, card section, blah, blah, all that good stuff. All right, so we've now got our kind of starter pack of components, something to very quickly get started with our application. Again, with React Native, so fantastic to have reusable components like this. It really speeds up development. So let's get started with our login form. We're going to create a new folder, or excuse me, a new file inside the components directory called login form. So because we are going to be making a standalone component this time, one that depends way more on Redux, I'm not going to copy paste over my existing login form. We're going to do this from scratch and say, okay, how do we make a login form that works nicely with Redux? And we're going to be able to kind of juxtapose the React-based approach with the React with Redux approach instead. So let's kind of get a better sense of what the difference is between these two different approaches. So let's put in some boilerplate for our login form. At the top, we'll import React and component from React. And we'll get started with just the card component from common, so one of our common components. Then we'll make our login form. We'll place our render method, and we'll return a default card component for right now. And at the bottom, we'll export default login form, like so. And then just to get something to show up on the screen of our application, I'm going to flip back over to the app component. I'm going to import the login form at the top from components, login form. And then I'm going to replace my text tag and my view tag inside the render method with this login form. Okay, so it looks like I got a little typo on the path there. So import login form from components. That's better. Okay, so nothing special going on so far. Again, just our very standard boilerplate in here just yet. Do take note that I'm not worrying about navigation yet. So there's no concept of showing different content to the user yet. We're always going to show the login form to them for right now. All right, so let's do a quick refresh just to make sure that everything is going okay. Most importantly, I want to make sure that we got those default components over. It looks, I know it's very subtle, but we kind of see the border here of the card component, so it looks like we're in a good spot here. Now let's continue by doing a little bit more scaffolding out. I want to create my input tags for my email and password. So at the top, we're going to import our card section, our input, and our button. And now we're going to place our email input, our password input, and our button tag as well. So we'll make a card section. We're going to need 3 of these, one for both components and one for the button. So I'm going to copy paste these in as well. So I got 3 card sections now. In the first one, we'll put our input for our email. I'll give it a placeholder. How about email@gmail.com? I think it's what we did last time. Inside the second one, the second card section that is, we'll place our password. So we'll throw on secure text entry. Remember, this is the prop to say, hey, make sure that the text in here displays as dots. We'll give it a label of password, password, well, that's interesting. Password, a placeholder of password. And finally, we'll do our button. And I'll just have the text login. Okay, so good boilerplate, good place to start. Let's do another refresh, make sure that we're going okay so far. And yep, looks good. We got email, password, and login button on the screen. So notice that so far, yes, everything looks identical. We still have to have the inputs, we still have the button for all the stuff. It's still happening on the React side. What's really going to start to change, however, is the fact that we're not going to have the component keep track of the value of the email and password. We're going to have Redux be in charge of that instead. So let's continue the next section and start hooking up Redux to this form.